Hey, I'm back. Well, sort of. I'm going to be writing again very soon. First, I have to get my health back on track. For anyone who missed the recent announcements that I posted to my Substack, I unfortunately was in hospital for a week with a condition called sepsis. It's pretty serious. And I was on some antibiotics. And now I'm recovering. Taking a bit of a walk in the local park here. Just try and get some sun after being cooped up in the hospital for a week on a drip. But the good news is there's plenty to keep me busy. Australia has just announced a new roadmap for AI. Minister Akers announced today that he's going to be prioritising investment and opportunity over guardrails. That's according to reporting in the ABC and the Guardian. And digging into it a little bit more, it seems as though they've swallowed most of what the industry lobbyists and shills have been saying for a long time, which is that current laws are all that is needed. I strongly disagree. There's a lot more to say about that, and I will be writing some more pieces about it, specifically about the mechanics of what AI regulation can look like, what it means. For example, something I commonly see or hear from people who don't seem too well informed is, oh, you can't regulate AI. People will just run their own AI locally. Well, the reality is AI regulation is very largely going to impact big companies and corporations. So, are you a big company or a corporation? No? Well, AI regulation is not going to be arguing with you and your little server that you're running in the stationery cupboard and putting some sort of AI on there. We're talking about large companies who are providing AI as a SaaS product to a big customer base. It's being connected up via MCP servers and wired up to agents and all that sort of thing. Those are the companies that have wholesale stolen intellectual property. They have breached copyright on a scale never before seen in the landscape of enterprise or intellectual property rights. And what is currently happening is piecemeal individuals are struggling to assess whether their intellectual property, their books, their scientific articles, their images that they've created, images even of themselves, especially with relation to school kids and their portraits being taken and ingested. All of that stuff is happening on a scale that's just completely unprecedented, and we definitely do need legislation changes to recognise how AI is accelerating that. It's like putting gasoline on a fire, except it's nuclear powered gasoline. One crazy little example, I don't know if this has any traction for you, but the original Ancient Crimes Act description of what could be stolen included tangible things. And when electricity was invented and started to be reticulated out to paying customers, sort of 100 or so years ago, so people sort of could switch a light on at the wall and there was a meter, they had to introduce a special change to legislation to define that electricity was something capable of being stolen. Now, without that, you had to go to court and try to fight to make people pay for electricity that they had taken without permission, routing around the electricity connection. AI is similar. Fast forward 100, 120 years, and now we've got a completely different situation. Yes, copyright laws still exist, but the mechanisms are completely different, and expecting small-time creators to try to go to court and fight it out with companies that have got billions of dollars of investor money to try to prove some highly technical court case around this theft of this intellectual property. It's completely and utterly ridiculous, and I can't understand how Akers and his idiot advisors have fallen for the claptrap from these industry lobbyists. It's just insane. So Julie Inman-Grant, who is the e-safety commissioner here in Australia, currently mostly concerned with the safety of kids and so on in relation to social media and our social media ban. There is some talk of a new body being set up as part of this government AI safety roadmap, which will cause experts in AI or whatever to be gathered together in some sort of government body, and that will allow them to act to make sure that so-called existing legislation will actually function correctly. But the risk is that this body, this second body, instead of being more like Inman's e-safety group, instead of looking out for the concerns of the public, this group could become just a proxy, like a chamber of commerce for AI, tasked basically with just making sure huge companies get more profits, and folks who create anything for a living are supposed to just lie down while all of the intellectual property is stolen. Full stop. Anyway, we have yet to see the detail of this, what will actually sort of happen. But my message is that AI regulation is good, it can work. There are companies that want to do the right thing with respect to artificial intelligence. And when I say that, again, AI regulation is for big companies providing AI services. And there are companies trying to do, protect kids. There are companies that are trying to pay for intellectual property instead of stealing it. But if we go down this road where the government just hands it over, then we are in a big mess, because there's just going to be no incentive for these other companies to try to do the right thing, and you will have taken the toxic and destructive posture that the US government has taken over AI and hash included it, bought it, imported it into Australia. Absolutely massive freaking disaster. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Just before I sign off, one other quick thing. In regards to regulation, AI companies are fond of saying, oh, look, it's going to be a patchwork of different regulations. This is terrible. We can't possibly have that. All these different states. Well, the reality is, suck it up, idiot. You have billions of dollars. And if you are trying to have the lowest possible compliance with everything that is put out by different states and sovereign territories, yeah, then you're going to have a mess. But if you actually do the right thing and provide strong guardrails internally, then you can just take a high watermark approach, can't you? You don't have to have a different offering for everyone. Now look at GDPR, right? The Europeans introduced GDPR, and what it's meant is that every company is now doing cookie tracking, so that our visits to a website will get this pop-up saying, do you accept the cookies, or do you want to go in and manually adjust them? In my work in enterprise software, I often dealt with those types of software frameworks that enable those GDPR compliance experiences to be rolled out. Now, we don't have GDPR in Australia. I see those here in Australia. So, there's no difference for AI. You have a high watermark. You say, this is the correct approach. This is, something that's going to cover all of the different states. You don't try to have the absolute least amount that you could possibly do in order to keep kids safe, in order to keep vulnerable folks safe, folks who are experiencing mental health issues, folks who are just ordinary folks who are in trouble with respect to, day-to-day living pressures, cost of living and all the rest of it. They are becoming isolated, reaching out to these AI chatbots, and the results are just disastrous. The number of suicidal ideation reports coming through are just absolutely chronic, and these companies are just doing nothing to deal with that. They're talking about measuring it and doing nothing to actually prevent it. So anyway, those are some very important things that are happening in AI. I talked a lot about Australia. As you can see, it's a beautiful country here. I can go for a walk in the local park. There's nobody here with guns trying to shoot me. Prices are good, life is good, it's beautiful and clean, the water is drinkable, and this is what regulation gets you. If I go to a store, buy food, our food here, we have strict food labelling laws. Again, another form of regulation, but I know that I can rely on not being poisoned by my freaking food. People in industry who are big freaking crybabies sitting on billions in cash are saying, oh no, we couldn't possibly have regulation, it's going to stifle innovation. Well, cry me a freaking river, Elon Musk and Sam Altman. Like, you do not need a free ride from regulation to innovate. You should be able to innovate in the regulatory landscape. You freaking dipshits. That's just the biggest pile of simpering bullshit I've ever heard. Oh my God, it just makes me so freaking angry. In my years of running startups and advising startups, one of the things you have to deal with as the CTO of a startup is that you have to manage the regulatory landscape. It's where you do business. Suck it up, idiots. Unbelievable. All right, enough of a rant for now. As you can tell, I'm a bit cranky. Just got out of hospital. Still getting better. But everybody who has a brain, a keyboard, and an internet connection needs to be fighting this fight right now. Go and have a look at Carl Brown from the Internet of Bugs. Read Ed Zitron, Yulia Zharovsky on Substack. All of these folks have got some great stuff to say about AI safety and the absolute egregious lies of AI. I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for listening to this rant. And don't worry, I will be back with more articles on Substack very soon. Love you all. Thanks for reading. Bye.